Hey guys, so I just wanted to come on here and say that people are being really, really insensitive to ISIS. And I can understand some level. And I'm talking about, and I hate to call her this, but this way you know who I'm talking about, the new trophy wife. But I just wanted to say, like, could she have potentially made decisions that could have resulted in something different? Yes. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is she must have had a really challenging childhood to cause her to make the decisions that she did. And I say that because one of my relatives, and the only person, I remember when Teen Mom first came out, right? Everybody was watching it, and everybody else that I knew that watched Teen Mom thought, "Oh my gosh, I do not want to have kids." As a young person, I don't want to be a teen mom. But there was this one relative who, when she watched it, I remember said, "Wow, don't you just want to be a teen mom?" I was like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, after watching Teen Mom, I really want to be a teen mom now." And I was like, "Are we watching the same show? Like, are we watching the same series?" But I also am aware that that particular relative was basically up for grabs anytime her mother got a new man, to put it lightly. She was available to any of her mother's boyfriends at any point, anytime, anyway. And she wanted to be a young mother. So I think that ISIS must have experienced a lot of trauma in her life to think that certain things were okay. For example, after looking at the court proceedings, they had a number of DV cases in the Maryland court system already. And typically, people that are in DV relationships when they're older grew up with DV situations in their youth. All right. Also, the marital grape, I hate using those stupid terms for this type of stuff, but you know how things are now. Speech ain't so free anymore. But the marital violation that she put in an asterisk in that video, she thought that she could overlook that. So he allegedly, this situation was, they were beating each other up or fighting each other, or he was fighting her, she was fighting him. We don't know. I don't know the specific details of it. And she's alleging that he also violated her in the worst way at the beginning of their relationship. Also, she was moving from one relationship to the next. So was she running from something? A lot of the signs that she displays in her decision making makes me believe that she must have had a traumatic upbringing. She must have seen some things growing up. And I know that she mentioned that her neighbor violated her in the worst way. And we don't, just like she didn't say that they had DV cases, it doesn't mean that that's the only thing that happened to her. And she's also seeming to be quite defensive right now, based on some posts that I kind of came across. And being hyperly defensive, from my experience and what people I know, is also a sign of a traumatic upbringing. So do I agree with all of the decisions that she made? No. But do I also know what it is to be young and make decisions that aren't the best? Absolutely. And that's just facts. She's not even 30, and now she has 5 children, 5 mouths to feed. And if she was telling the truth and she wasn't working for that time that she was with him, she also has a large gap in her resume to find a job or to find and create a career for herself. And it's sad. it's just sad. And unfortunately, there are a lot, apparently, of women who were stay-at-home whoever's, and their partner and them separate, or their partner leaves them, and they have nothing to show for it. Now, as someone who's not living that lifestyle, I don't understand how you can be rich and then not have any money for yourself. How you can have like all these nice bags and all this stuff and not have any money or any stocks or your own bank account. That, to me, I don't understand that. But I'm not living her life. I didn't walk in her shoes. I don't know what pain she came from. So I can have my point of view from where I stand, but I don't know what her life was like. I don't know how she grew up. And she obviously had some trauma to purposefully have a child at 17. She had to have some trauma, because the only people I know that purposefully had children young were people who grew up in traumatic situations and who moved in quickly with a partner. It was because they were running from something. So do I agree that with still making content to try to get other women in such a horrible situation, if she knew what she was going through behind closed doors? No. And though, is it possible that she thought that that was normal? There is a community of people who think if your partner does not physically, your partner does not care about you or does not love you. There is a community of people who think that if your partner does not disrespect you and violate you, that they don't care about you. There is a community of people who think that if your partner doesn't stalk you and isn't jealous and crazy behind what you do, that your partner does not care about you. That exists. So I don't know, perhaps that's where she was coming from. Maybe she thought that that was a sign of love. We don't know. And does it sound strange to someone who hasn't had that experience and who hasn't lived in that space and didn't grow up that way? Darn tootin', it sure does sound strange, but it happens and it's prevalent. There's a lot of people who think that if your partner doesn't put the paws on you, that they don't care about you. If your partner isn't controlling and jealous of stuff, that they don't care about you. That does exist. So from our point of view, we could say that it is awfully hypocritical of her to be in her own personal heck and to still be promoting this lifestyle to other women when she's, you could say, perpetrating fraud. And though there's also another reality where perhaps this was better than what she grew up with. So perhaps she's talking to the younger version of herself who grew up in a horrible situation. And so then this situation isn't as horrible, but it's still something that she's used to. I'm not saying that that is her situation at all, because I don't know her. I've never met her, I've never spoken to her, but I'm just saying, like, I know people who potentially would think that that was a step up because of the trauma that they grew up with. If you grew up with someone who was laying smack down on your mom every night, and your partner only lays the smack down on you once a month, you are going to think that that is good treatment. And then, because those type of people are also very manipulative and narcissist as well, so they can get into your mind and have you doubting your self-confidence and your self-esteem. And so, who knows? But the thing is, like, I would just say, like, if her accusations are in fact true of what she said happened, it alludes to the fact that she perhaps had a very, very challenging childhood as well. And just because she only mentioned the neighbor, she didn't even say anything about the DV, but it happened. And you can Google it and see. She didn't say explicitly, she put it in an asterisk about the grape in their beginning of their marriage, but it happened. And if he did it at the beginning of their marriage, is it allegedly? Is it possible to say he did it at the end of her marriage too? And people are also coming at her about a video with her children crying in the background. I don't have kids, but I know, well, I don't know. I don't have children, but I know that there are crybabies. Some kids are crybabies. And I'm not saying that that's not for no reason, but some children are crybabies. And so they'll be like, and if you have a lot of kids, I'm sure there's always some amount of noise happening in the background. And then people were trying to say she's a bad mom because she was doing her makeup. But if you think that your partner is a decent human being and you know that they are with the children, I don't think it's irrational to assume that your partner would be handling the situation. I don't think it's irrational to, if you're making a video and your kids are just being rambunctious and loud and your significant other is with them, I don't think it's irrational to believe that your partner is taking care of it. I don't think that that's an irrational thing. Now, in hindsight, is it alarming now to hear because of these accusations? Absolutely. But it's not irrational, I don't think, to continue what you're doing. Granted, I don't have children, so I'm speaking from a different perspective, but it doesn't seem odd to continue doing what you're doing if your significant other is with the children, because he might have been saying, no, don't touch that thing, and then the child started crying, because children do that. So it's not something that doesn't happen with large families, especially if you do have a crybaby and they're crying all the time anyway, right? We don't have a full viewpoint of what's going on in their household. And so I just wanted to say, like, in general, we don't know the truth. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but like, I would just say, like, people are being so harsh on her. And I'm not saying that you don't have a right to your opinion, but just consider perhaps she grew up in a different situation.